David Menzies for Rebel News here in Minden, Ontario. Well, I'm with Jason Lake. He is the owner of the Minden 50s Diner. And late last week, Mr. Lake had enough of not being able to run his business. He had enough of being denied to make an income. So what did Mr. Lake do? Well, he opened the 50s Minden Diner, and wow, did police and health officials come down on him like a paper bull. Just will you hear this story, folks. So, Jason, needless to say, in this day and age of the Wuhan virus, the food service sector has been especially hammered. You can't open up your restaurant for sit-down clientele. The government says takeout and delivery only, but I've spoken to other operators. They say their takeout and delivery sales amount to peanuts, especially if it is a sit-down operation. Now, last Friday, you decided enough is enough. You decided to open your doors to sit-down customers. What happened?
Well, I opened up for breakfast. I had some good supporters come up from different areas. Some regulars came in. They came in, sat down. We followed the same protocols that I had in place. Spaced them out equally. The servers were all, sanitized and masks on. And basically, we went for a while. The breakfast rush was just kind of dwindling out. And there's that law between lunch and then also the health inspector showed up, and I was outside behind the building, and I had to come back around, and they were in there. And then the police also as well showed up, and basically they said, shut her down. And at that point, it could have been a $500,000 fine. And I...
Wait a second, $500,000 fine they were threatening you with?
Yeah, it was $500,000. That's what it could have been. And at this point, I was really take the risk. I mean, when you're desperate, you become a different person. You're just trying to keep alive. You're trying to keep your business alive. You're trying to keep the workers employed. They've been here 7 years, these workers, and they love this place. We're like a family here, and I just want to see them employed.
Jason, to me, this is downright perverse. We have correctional facilities in Ontario letting criminals out of their buildings, some of them violent, some of them quite nefarious, so that proper social distancing can be maintained. But meanwhile, a guy like you that wants to whip up a bacon and egg special for your clientele, you're going to face a $500,000 fine and potentially a year in jail. I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that you work so hard and put all this money and effort, get a business going, established, you're a staple in the community, and that you all of a sudden become a criminal for serving bacon and eggs. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And it just drives me, like I can't sleep at night because it does not make sense at all.
Jason, it's staggering, and I believe on top of the $500,000, you could also potentially face some jail time too.
You know what? I did have a set date of middle of June that if nothing came about, I would just open again and just face and challenge it in court. I'm not sure yet. We're going to see where this goes. Maybe if Doug opens something up within the next 30 days regionally, maybe it helps us out. But if it doesn't, I don't know. At this point, if we don't open, I'm going to go bankrupt anyway. So what's a $500,000 fine? Can't pay it anyway. Be under.
This is breaking my heart. I didn't know that you're actually on the brink of bankruptcy if you can't get your seasonal business open. I can only imagine there's so many more in your shoes, and it makes me ponder that whenever things get back to normal, Jason, I just wonder what Main Street is going to look like when you walk down those shops, those boutiques, those restaurants, those bakeries that you once took for granted. I think they might be gone, as in gone forever.
That very well could happen. The government gave us, I don't like to use the word relief money because it's actually debt. Relief would be if it was free. It's debt. So I didn't have any debt prior to March 17th. Now I did take the 40 here, but we pay back 30 in 2 years, which is $1,250 a month on top of our rent here. Plus, if we do only have 50% occupancy if they do social distancing for the restaurant, that's not enough to get through. So the business will be done, period.
Before Doug Ford became premier, going back to 2018, one of the election slogans was Ontario open for business. And the stats tell a different tale. The most recent one was a survey on how open the economies of Canada are. Ontario ranked number 9. Only Newfoundland was worse. This is kind of odd given that this is a Conservative premier who campaigned on the province being open for business. What's your take on that?
Well, I was a Doug Ford. I voted Doug Ford, and I'm a small business, and he represents the small business, and you know what? That's kind of his thing, and open for business, and I like that slogan. And now I feel sick. I feel like he let me down, and this is with my other restaurateurs and small business owners in the area. They feel the same. They were huge Doug Ford supporters, and do I still like him? Yes, but he's failing us in the north right now, and I just wish he would listen to the region and let us open by region.
He doesn't seem to be listening to small business owners, his supporters. I heard him on radio very recently. He stated that nobody wants to open the economy in Ontario fully more so than he does, but he's getting his advice from doctors and scientists, and they're saying you can't do this. What's your take on that, Jason?
Well, every time I hear him say, I want to get it open just as bad as everybody else. And I just think to myself, how can you say that? When, like I said, Ontario, there's 2 Ontarios. There's Toronto and then there's the North. And, out west is opening up. I'm not sure about the east, but I talked to friends. They're going into restaurants, and here we are in Ontario, still closed.
And it should be noted that when you opened, it wasn't in a willy-nilly fashion. I understand you closed down half of the restaurant, half of the seating, so that you could maintain social distancing.
Yes, and that's what I did. After walking into all the big box stores and seeing them open for business, thousands of people going in, touching everything. There's no real protocol there. There's some hand sanitizer. You come in, you may put it on, you may not. But here in the restaurant, I said, you know what, I can make it safer than a big box store. So what I decided to do was space out the booths, put plexiglass between them, move the tables around, and what we decided to do was bring the food up to an area, and then the customer would come and grab it and take it back to the table. We offered disposable ketchups and forks, and the only thing that ladies would touch would be the plates, and they would go back and they go into a dishwasher and totally sanitized. So in a smaller restaurant like as this one, we could actually control it better than a big store. And I feel like they were being discriminated against, these little restaurants and the mom and pop shops in this area.
My theory has always been we should have directed our resources at things like the long-term care facilities where 82% of the deaths in Canada have occurred. We should not have shut down the economy, because I would argue that the increase in depression, the suicide rates, the people dying on elective surgery, the spousal abuse, it sounds like to me, Jason, the cure is worse than the curse.
I would agree with that. It's sad that it happened in the senior homes and in the extended care homes. And you're right. It should have been attention brought to those homes, and really the vulnerable, you stay home. If you have a immune deficiency, you stay home. Let the rest of us continue on. Allow us to practice social distancing and stuff like that. We could follow that, but don't shut us down. Why shut us down completely? We're trying to live. Employees are trying to make payments, car payments. The depression. The people that work for me, some of them are so depressed right now. It makes me like almost to tears, because it's so upsetting to me. And then I'm the criminal. And this is what I don't like. This is what really hurts me the most, is that people say, oh, how could you have opened? How could you open? You don't care about your community. I love my community. I care about my community. These people that are saying this to me are the same people going to Canadian Tire or these big box stores, touching everything with thousands of people. But because the government says restaurants are closed, that means evil. If a big box store is open, that's safe. And you know what? That just is absurd to me, and it's just so frustrating. I respect the law, and I do, but there's a point where your back is against the wall here, and and when you're in that position, you have to fight, and that's where I am now. I'm fighting. I'm fighting for my staff. I'm fighting for the community. Restaurants in a lot of cities in North, that's like the heart and soul of towns a lot of times. And if those restaurants are gone, the town goes, and so forth, and all the other little businesses, and I see that's the road we're on right now.
Well, Jason, I wish you luck. I know just earlier today they extended this emergency act until the end of the month, so there's certainly no relief in sight in the short term. I don't even know what the short term and the long term is. But in any event, I wish you well, and I'm sure our viewers do too. And I really do, for my own selfish reasons. This looks like an incredible diner. I'd love to come in here and have a hamburger and a shake, and I can't wait to do so.
Well, thanks. I appreciate coming way up north here and getting my story out and helping out all the other small businesses in Ontario.
Hey folks, have you heard the bad news? There will be no summer camp in Ontario this year, and that is just not right. If you feel like I do, please go to our new petition, which is opensummercamp.com. opensummercamp.com. I'm aiming to get 25,000 signatures so I can present this petition to Premier Ford and try to convince him to do the right thing and open those summer camps.